Right, so there's a question I've started asking people who come to me after they've lost serious money. Now, it's not how much did you lose, it's not what happened. It's this. Did you lose it making your own decision or someone else's? Most everyone answers the same way. They handed the money to someone else. A friend who said he was trading, a cousin who had a business idea, a man at a function who knew a man, an investment opportunity introduced to someone that they trusted. And the end result is normally the same. The money just simply disappears and there's no return. Today, I want to talk to you about why losing your own money on your own terms is one of the most valuable things that can possibly happen to you in this life, and why losing someone else's version of your money is one of the most damaging. They look the same on your bank statement, but they're not the same in person. So I'm Achee-Stewart, and this is the Caribbean Capitalist. So, welcome to the Caribbean Capitalist. I'm Achee-Stewart, founder of Summit Solutions Caribbean and an FTMO funded trader with 17 years of finance and business experience. This show is for the Caribbean professional who's done everything right, built a career, saved responsibly, raised a family, and quietly knows that the pension and local currency salary simply can't be enough. So, if you've ever lost money on something someone else was running, a business partnership, an investment scheme, a friend who said he'd handle it, and you've spent years since being more careful, more cautious, more responsible with what's left, and if part of you suspects that being more cautious hasn't actually been working, that the money you protected is quietly eroding, today's episode is especially for you. All right, so I'm not going to tell you about one person today. I'm going to tell you about a pattern, because this happens so often and so consistently that one client's story would simply understate it. Across the years, I've sat with brilliant people, oil and gas engineers, surgeons, doctors, senior project managers running facilities you recognize by name. People who, by every external measure, are at the top of their professions and the top of their income brackets. And almost every one of them, when we sit down properly, eventually tells me a version of the same story. They had some money, they were earning well, they wanted that money to do more than just sit in their bank. And then someone came along, sometimes a family member, sometimes a friend from school, sometimes a person they met through their works who seemed to know things that they simply didn't. And that person had something, a business they were starting, a partnership they were offering, a trade they came to running, or a fund they had access to. The pitch varied. The structure was almost the same. Give me the money, I'll handle it, and you'll see returns. So they did. They handed it over, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases, even more than that. And then, at some point, the money was gone. Sometimes the person disappears. Sometimes the business failed. Sometimes the trades didn't work out. Sometimes the relationship simply went quiet and the questions stopped getting answered. The specifics differ. The ending, however, is the same. The money simply doesn't come back and there's nothing that the person can do about it. Now, here's the part that most people miss, because their attention is on the loss, the dollar figure, the regret, the anger, and the person who took it. And that's understandable. But the real damage isn't the dollar figure. The real damage is that they walked away from the experience with absolutely nothing in exchange. No skill, no insight, no competence before, no business knowledge, no supplier relationships, no understanding of what works and what doesn't. Just simply loss. Now, I want you to sit with that, because the loss is the loud part. The empty hands afterward, that's the quiet one. And it's the quiet part that does the long-term damage. So let me draw the contrast clearly, because this is the thing I want you to take from this episode. Imagine the same money, the same loss, but you were the one who owned it. You started a business, you bought the inventory, you hired the staff, you signed the contracts, and the business failed, and you lost everything you put in. Now, that's a terrible thing. I'm not minimizing it, but look at what you walk away with. You learned which supplier was honest and which wasn't. You learned that you underpriced your service for the first 6 months. You learned that the location was wrong, and the timing was wrong, and you should have listened to the man who warned you. You learn what you're actually like under pressure, whether you fold or whether you fight. You learn that you can recover from being broke because you did. You learn an industry from inside in a way that no book could teach you. And every bit of that becomes the foundation for the next thing that you build. The same money lost, but two completely different people walking away from it. This is what I mean by agency. Agency is not a feeling. Agency is the difference between an experience that builds you and an experience that just costs you. And the test that agency is simple. When the thing went wrong, were you the one making decisions, or were you watching someone else make them with your own money? If it was you, the loss teaches. If it was them, the loss only takes from you. This is why I tell prospects very early that I do not handle your money. Summit Solutions Caribbean is an education first business. We do not take your funds, we do not invest on your behalf, we do not run a strategy for you. There's a clean line between teaching you what we know and taking your money to do it for you. And I will not cross that line because the moment I cross it, I would have stolen something from you far more valuable than if you. I've stolen an agency. I've made you a passenger in your own financial life again. And no return I can generate for you would be with that trade. The whole point is for you to be the operator, to make the decisions yourself, to take the trades yourself, to win or lose on your own hand. Because if you do that for long enough, even when you lose, and you will lose regularly, that's just how it works, you learn something. Every loss is tuition, every win is confirmation. And over time, you become someone who knows what they're doing. That person cannot be made by someone else trading for them. That person can only be made by their own decisions accumulating over time. Now, here's the twist I want to leave with you, because it's the part that gets most people. When you've been burned by handing money over, the natural instinct is to retreat, to become careful, to protect what's left, to never put another dollar at risk. That instinct feels responsible and it feels mature, but it's also a trap. Because while you're sitting on your protected money, the cost of everything you buy keeps rising. The pension you're counting on keeps shrinking in real terms. The currency you're holding keeps doing what currencies do. The safety you've retreated into is itself a slow, guaranteed loss, and you don't even get to learn anything from it because there's no decision being made. The lesson from being burnt isn't never take risk again. Risk is required. The only question is whether you're in the driver's seat for the risk you're taking or whether you've handed the wheel to someone else and called it fortune. The Caribbean professional who got burned once and went into hiding is 10 years later often worse off than the one who got burned and got back in, but got back in as the operator because the second person was learning the whole time the first person was simply hiding. So, if any of this lands for you, if you've been burned before and you've been quietly retreating ever since, I built a free 12-question assessment that maps where you are right now and tells you honestly what a realistic next step looks like. It's not a sales tool. It will tell you, in some cases, that what you need is actually not trading at all. That's part of the value, knowing where you really stand instead of guessing. There's 4 minutes and no cost to you. So, that's the Caribbean Capitalist for this week. I'm Tyrone. New episodes every Tuesday. If today's episode mattered to you, send it to someone you know who got burned once and has been smaller ever since. They'll know whether they need to hear it. I'll see you next one.